Within the Xiantian matrix, Qin He's slender fingers were still on the strings of her guqin. She stared at Yi Futian, stunned. Within the Xiantian matrix, Qin He's slender fingers were still on the strings of her guqin. She stared at Yi Futian, stunned. She had not even launched an attack, and the Xiantian matrix had already been broken. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. She was stunned for a moment, but then she was relieved. Yi Futian was still floating in the air, and celestial light was spreading out from his guqin. He looked up at Qin He and said, "The Xiantian matrix is incredibly powerful, and so I had no choice but to take you by surprise. Please forgive me." He had needed to resort to trickery to break the matrix so quickly and had blended his music into the celestial soul attraction to create rhythmic sorcery that would assault their souls in an instant. In this way, he had not even needed to really fight Qin He. "You broke the Xiantian matrix with a trick that I used before. I am very ashamed." All the people of the Heavenly Mandate realm look at Prince Yi Tianyu of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and Gu Donglu of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven as the best cultivators of this generation. "But in my view, you are not inferior to either of them, Lord Yi," said Qin He softly. Previously, the Xiantian matrix had used divine swords to cut people's spiritual souls, defeating the cultivators of the Purple Gold Rat clan and the Violet Heavenly Palace in seconds. Now, Yi Futian had used the same kind of trick on them, wounding all of the goddesses within the Xiantian matrix in an instant. Qin He's words were full of praise for Yi Futian. These days, the people of the Heavenly Mandate realm did indeed look at Yi Tianyu and Gu Donglu as the best. And Qin He had said that Yi Futian was not inferior to either of them. This placed Yi Futian above all other cultivators. This showed how she held him in such high esteem. "It seems that the rumors are true," everyone was saying quietly. They could see that this outstanding woman, Qin He, did indeed have a high opinion of Yi Futian. If this was the case, then wasn't it highly likely that Yi Futian was the one that she would choose as a cultivation partner? Moreover, did the fact that she had praised him so highly mean that she had feelings for him? Maybe she had wanted this all along, and that was why she had given Yi Futian this chance. "You are too kind, Goddess Qin. All of the people who formed the Xiantian matrix today are very powerful. Not one of them is anything less than a genius," answered Yi Futian. The praise that the two of them were lavishing on each other made everyone watching from far away look at them with more and more surprise. "Please come up, Lord Yi," said Qin He with a nod. "Thank you, Goddess." Yi Futian walked forward with the people from the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven following behind. They all looked dazed. They had thought this would be a fierce battle. However, it had been almost too easy. They had not even come under any pressure. Yi Futian had broken the matrix in an instant, and afterward, Qin He had not kept fighting but had given up completely. "He is amazing," said Hua Qingyuan softly. "He was worthy of admiration." It seemed that the elder had not been wrong. Yi Futian was indeed a good choice. Moreover, Yi Futian was an outstanding talent, and Qin He was the same. Both of them were also incredibly good-looking. It seemed to be a match made in heaven. If the two of them were together, it would become a tale for the ages. The group continued forward up the stairs to the Xiantian pavilion. On either side, the cultivators of the Sky Demon Court and the Heavenly Mandate dynasty watched Yi Futian and the others, especially Yi Tianyu and Yen Sui. Was that just the celestial soul attraction mystical way of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven? Whispered Yen Sui. He had heard Yi Tianyu say that Yi Futian had used the mystical ways of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven to defeat the divine sound. He must have used the same method to break the Xiantian matrix. He had used the mystical way as his main attack to assault the souls of the people in the Xiantian matrix. Qin He and the others had not been ready and had been caught off guard. Their spiritual souls had been damaged, and many of the cultivators of Brahma's pure sky had been wounded. Thus, the Xiantian matrix had collapsed. Yi Futian had been clever, taking advantage of their unpreparedness. He may not have personally experienced the power of these goddesses, but he could feel how supernatural it was. If he had tried to do this differently, he would not have been able to break the matrix in an instant. Yi Tianyu nodded. Yes, this mystical way had been lost for many years. It was only recently rediscovered and cultivated by Yi Futian. One's celestial soul is lured, and once you have a strong sense of it, you can directly target it with your attacks. The celestial gate of vast heaven is a top force in the heavenly mandate realm, and once had their golden era. It looks like their reputation is well-deserved. Their techniques are truly incredible. Yen Sui nodded slightly in praise. Any top force had things that it could inevitably do. Moreover, the celestial gate of vast heaven had nearly climbed to the peak 100 years ago. All of the 9 supreme regions, including the heavenly mandate realm, had been a part of that war. Gu Tianxing had been quite a character. It was a pity that he was gone now. Otherwise, if he were at the level he had been back then, he would be number 1 among all the 3,000 realms of the Great Path in the 9 supreme regions. They were not talking by means of telepathy, and they did not avoid mentioning Yi Futian and the celestial gate of vast heaven. Yi Futian watched Yi Tianyu and Yen Sui as they talked. They seemed to notice him, and Yen Sui inclined his head with a slight smile. He seemed very polite and relaxed. "I am a disciple of Shangxiao Divine Palace," he said. "My name is Yen Sui." Shangxiao Divine Palace was usually just called the Divine Palace because it was the only place in the higher heavens realm that could be called a Divine Palace. It was the most prestigious place for cultivation in the higher heavens realm, and it had no rivals. It was not a place that took part in factionalism, as it was above the petty conflicts of the world. When its disciples appeared in disputes, they were not representing the palace. The Divine Palace merely taught, and thus, many of the most powerful figures of the top forces of the higher heavens realm went there to seek the path. The Shangxiao Divine Palace had trained countless heroes of the higher heavens realm, and thus enjoyed an incredibly high status. Forces from other realms would even send their people to the Divine Palace to seek the path. Thus, the Heavenly Mandate dynasty had sent Yi Tianyu and many of the other talented youths of the dynasty to the Shangxiao Divine Palace to cultivate. Some of them had not come back and had joined the Divine Palace instead. Even their most common disciples became brilliant heroes. Yen Sui was a disciple of the Divine Music Palace within the Divine Palace and was the most outstanding and talented figure there. "I am Yi Futian of the Heavenly Mandate Realm," answered Yi Futian. Since Yen Sui had introduced himself, Yi Futian could not be impolite by not doing the same. "Your mystical ways are quite excellent, Brother Yi, and you are skilled at rhythmic sorcery," said Yen Sui with a smile. "I happen to have also done some small research into rhythmic sorcery. We should test our skills sometime. I have cultivated many talents, and rhythmic sorcery is the one that I am least skilled in. If you wish to test my skills, you can test them each one by one," said Yi Futian with a smile and a slight nod. He had seen how Yen Sui had taken the lead with his rhythmic sorcery, and thus had seen how skilled he was. He had done substantial research into it. He was the most skilled at divine sounds out of all the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. Yen Sui twitched when he heard Yi Futian speak. This guy was laying out all his cards, contrary to common sense. He had even disparaged his own rhythmic sorcery, but Yen Sui had seen that the control over rhythmic sorcery that he displayed was not inadequate in the least. "Very well," said Yen Sui with a nod. He said nothing else. No one knew if the Tian matrix would be able to continue. He was looking down the stairs. "Does anyone else wish to try?" she asked. The Tian matrix was no longer whole. The continuous fighting had made it so that many of the cultivators of Brahma's pure sky could not go on any longer. Of course, just He and a few of the other goddesses could keep going on their own. As long as their opponents were not at the level of forces like the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and Sky Demon Palace, they would have a hard time breaking the matrix. At that moment, a voice was transmitted to her. "The goddesses of Brahma's pure sky have been fighting for such a long time and have used up most of their strength. To try and break the matrix now would be meaningless. I will not try. Can I come up to Tian Pavilion?" The speaker was Gao Huang of 10,000 Divine Mountain. 10,000 Divine Mountain always seemed to be relatively casual like this. They had not participated in the battle at the Violet Heavenly Palace. It seemed that they were always just watching from the sidelines. We at Brahma's Pure Sky have created this matrix to test the various forces of the heavenly mandate realm. There is no special meaning behind it. If none of them wants to continue trying to break it, then the people of the ordinary forces of the heavenly mandate realm may try, answered Qin He. A thoughtful look came over everyone's face. They were wondering what Qin He meant by this. She had said that there was no special meaning behind Brahma's Pure Sky setting up the Xiantian matrix. How could that be? If there was no special meaning, then why had she fought so bitterly? Previously she had seemed so serious. The fact that she had done this meant that there had to be a meaning to it. If that is the case, then we will not attack the matrix. It will be much more pleasant just to walk up, said Gao Huang with a smile. He was happy just to be an observer. As for what would happen, he would just wait and see. With a force as powerful as 10,000 divine mountain giving up, the other forces decided not to try either. All of the most powerful forces had already made their moves, and so it seemed that this affair had come to an end. If you looked at it only from the perspective of conflict, the battle between the cultivators of the Xiantian matrix and the Heavenly Mandate dynasty had been the most epic and shocking, and their fighting had been the fiercest. If you looked at it from the perspective of efficiency, Yi Futian and the people of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven had broken the matrix in an instant. No one had thought that that would happen. In addition, the Sky Demon Court had also shown outstanding power. Thus, if nothing unexpected happened and Brahma's Pure Sky wanted to form a marriage alliance and Qin He wanted to choose a cultivation partner, there were only these three great forces to choose from. The other forces that had lost would not even enter into Qin He's estimation. When she saw that no one else was coming, Qin He rose and put away her guqin. He waved her hand, and suddenly, all of the other goddesses retreated. We have prepared a feast here at the Xiantian Pavilion. You are all invited, said Qin He to everyone below them. The ones she had invited were naturally the top forces of the Heavenly Mandate realm. The others all knew their place. The great forces walked towards the stairs. But for the cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace and the Purple Gold Rat Clan, this was not how they had wanted to go up the stairs. They had wanted to go up after having broken the Xiantian matrix. They all walked up with gloomy expressions. However, they were also curious about what Brahma's Pure Sky was going to do now. This would probably set the future structure of the Heavenly Mandate realm, and so they naturally wanted to be a part of it. They could not leave now. As everyone was walking up, Qin He turned and looked at the cultivators of the three great forces in the Xiantian Pavilion. You are all invited as well, she said. Thank you, goddess, they all answered. Qin He said nothing else. She walked forward, and without knowing if she meant to or not, she moved towards where the people from the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven were standing and nodded slightly at Yi Futian. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Countless people were still gathered together in the vast area below the Xiantian Palace. All of them were cultivators from Brahma's Sky City. Countless people were still gathered together in the vast area below the Xiantian Palace. All of them were cultivators from Brahma's Sky City. However, as they looked up, all they could see on the stairway were a few women left as guards. The others had all disappeared up into Xiantian Pavilion. What would happen up there? If Saint Qin He of Brahma's Pure Sky wanted to choose a cultivation partner, she would probably choose him from among the three camps that had broken the matrix. If Goddess Qin chooses a cultivation partner, who do you all think would be the most suitable candidate? Someone asked those around him. The prince of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty Yi Tianyu. He is a prince of the Divine Palace, and has a pleasant disposition, in addition to being good at making friends. Many of the great geniuses of the Shangxiao Palace have come to the Heavenly Mandate realm to help him, said someone with certainty. As long as Goddess Qin He does not have any objections, then a marriage between the foremost saint of Brahma's Pure Sky and the Heavenly Mandate dynasty would be a match made in heaven. No one could be more suitable. That's true. I have heard that the prince of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty looks down on everyone. He is extremely proud. Now it looks like the rumors were not true. Yi Tianyu seems modest and humble. If he and Goddess Qin He were together, then Brahma's Pure Sky would lose their greatest saint, but in the future, they would gain a queen of the heavenly mandate dynasty, someone chimed in. Many people thought that Qin He and Yi Tianyu were well suited to each other. You all seem to be forgetting about Qin He's happiness, someone broke in. Yi Futian broke the matrix in an instant and is a marvelous hero besides. His family background may be obscure, and he is certainly of lower status than Yi Tianyu, but that just makes it all the more impressive that he is here today. Moreover, Yi Futian is one of the greatest figures of our age. He broke the matrix in an instant. And Goddess Qin, he said that he was a contender for the title of the strongest person in this generation of the heavenly mandate realm. This means that in Goddess Qin He's eyes, Yi Futian is absolutely no worse than Yi Tianyu. Moreover, she clearly favors him. Wouldn't it be even more perfect if the two of them were together? Yi Futian may have an incredible amount of talent, but it seems that there are no feelings between him and Qin He, said someone. They would make a bad match? Someone asked. Perhaps. Qin He was, after all, a saint of Brahma's pure sky. Looked at from this angle, she and the prince of the heavenly mandate dynasty were more suitable for each other. The people of Brahma's sky city were naturally very passionate and curious about the topic of a cultivation partner for the foremost saint of Brahma's pure sky, and conversations about this could be found throughout the city. As for what was happening up at Xiantian Pavilion, they did not dare try to spy on it. That was Xiantian Pavilion, the place where the goddesses of Brahma's sky city cultivated. Who would dare spy there without permission? Now they could only guess and wait for news. Unfortunately, they had not been born into any of the great forces. Otherwise, they could have gone up to the pavilion and seen what was going on. At that moment, a feast had been prepared at Xiantian Pavilion. The people of Brahma's pure sky had brought all the people of the great forces to the place where the feast was being held. The cultivators took their seats. Qin He did not sit in the host's place, but in a seat off to the side. A look of surprise came over everyone's faces. Could it be that some other important figure from Brahma's pure sky was coming? At that moment, a group of figures walked out from one of the great halls. Naturally, they were all women. The one at their head had an outstanding air about her. She was tall and slender, but with perfect curves. However, there was a fascinating sense of divinity about her, which made it so that people would not dare to lust after her. When they saw her, all the people of the great forces bowed in turn and said, "Greetings, goddess." The woman at the head of the group that had just come was one of the Jyotian goddesses, the Xiantian goddess. Xiantian Pavilion was her place for cultivation within Brahma's sky city. The Jyotian goddesses held a very respected position within Brahma's pure sky, only being subordinate to the empress. Even in the heavenly mandate realm, they were considered powerful figures. All of the people who had come here today, who on the surface were powerful figures in their own right, paid their respects when they saw Goddess Xiantian. "Welcome to Xiantian Pavilion. There is no need to be so polite, you may all sit," said Goddess Xiantian. "Thank you, Goddess." Everyone was still speaking very politely. If Goddess Xiantian had not taken her seat, they certainly could not. In the world of cultivation, no matter what your relationship with somebody was, as long as you were not facing them in battle, you had to show them the utmost respect. Sometimes people would even show great respect when facing their enemies. Goddess Xiantian did not say anything else. She sat down with a slight smile, and soon everyone else followed suit. Today, we have invited all of you from the heavenly mandate realm for several reasons. The first reason is that we wanted to see the talented cultivators of this generation. The second is that we want to take this chance to have the disciples of Brahma's pure sky teach the cultivators of all the other forces and give them more motivation to cultivate, said Goddess Xiantian. The Xiantian matrix was set up by Qin He and the saints of Brahma's pure sky, but even so, every time you attacked, you put a lot of pressure on them. And you even managed to break it several times. Many people were hurt. This is a great reminder for them. Thank you for your kind words, Goddess. The Xiantian matrix is incredibly powerful. If we had not used all of our might, it would have been impossible to break it. It was pure luck that we were able to do so as it was, said Yi Tianyu with a smile. The matrix is created by the saints of Brahma's pure sky, and naturally, they are able to bring a lot of power to bear. You must know that we have come a great distance, and yet since we were able to see the splendor of the goddesses of Brahma's pure sky, the trip was more than worth it, said a cultivator beside Yi Tianyu. His name was Lin Yu, and he was the oldest of the disciples who had come here from Shangxiao Divine Palace, making him their elder brother. Even Yi Tianyu showed him respect. Shangxiao Divine Palace itself has quite a powerful matrix. How can our humble matrix compare to yours? Goddess Xiantian said to Lin Yu. This is not a competition between our matrices. Moreover, Goddess Qin he displayed just as much talent in this battle as even the most powerful figures from Shangxiao Divine Palace. If you are willing, then we would be pleased to have her come and join us there to cultivate, said Lin Yu with a smile. Everyone who heard this looked surprised. Would Qin he enter Shangxiao Divine Palace? Then she would become Yi Tianyu's sworn sister. Lin Yu seemed to be speaking casually, but his words had profound implications. If Brahma's pure sky were really planning to do this, then Qin he's choice of spiritual partner would certainly be Yi Tianyu. That depends on what Qin he herself thinks, answered Goddess Xiantian. There was one other reason for this battle, and it was the most important one, determining Qin he's future. Everyone who heard this felt their hearts beating faster. Had they finally reached the main topic? When he heard this, Yi Futian involuntarily looked towards Qin he. He saw her nod slightly, but could not see her expression. My disciple Qin he is outstandingly talented. However, she lacks a few things since she has always cultivated here in Brahma's pure sky. Thus, we have decided to let her go out into the mortal world to cultivate and train. However, she will still be a disciple of Brahma's pure sky, said Goddess Xiantian. Everyone was clear about what she meant. Indeed, the people of Brahma Sky City had been talking about this. It seemed their information had not come out of thin air. Brahma's pure sky was indeed going to choose a spiritual partner for Qin he. Enter the so-called mortal world to cultivate was perhaps one reason, but it was definitely not the only one. They all knew this, and Qin he must have known as well. However, Qin he is extremely proud. She is not willing to leave Brahma's pure sky and enter the mortal world, so she and I made a bet. I let her set up the Xiantian matrix. If no one was able to break it, then she would not have to go to the mortal world. If someone could break it, then she had to promise to leave Brahma's pure sky, continued Goddess Xiantian. Everyone was stunned. If none of them had been able to break the matrix, that would have meant Qin he was not inferior to anyone in the heavenly mandate realm, and she would have no need to get married. As Yi Futian listened to this, he saw that she had her head bowed. Was this why she had fought so persistently? Everyone had thought that she did not need to do that, but she had indeed fought with all her strength. So, she had indeed been unwilling. If that was the case, why was Brahma's pure sky forcing her? Was it just so that she would go into the mortal world to cultivate? Perhaps they wanted to use her to help arrange the future situation of the heavenly mandate realm. Under the current situation, no matter who she married, it would change the balance of power. It could be said that her marriage would be extremely influential. However, this is an extremely important matter to Qin he. Thus, I ask that you all give her some time. Brahma's pure sky will not influence her choice, continued Goddess Xiantian. Then she looked at Qin he and said, I leave it to you, Qin he. Having said this, she stood and said, I will not see all of you off. It is good that you are gathered here together. After she said this, she turned and left. Qin he was the foremost saint of Brahma's pure sky, which was a top force in the heavenly mandate realm. And she was beautiful besides. If she chose someone to be her spiritual partner, how could they refuse? Qin he looked up at everyone and said softly, Everyone, please stay here at Xiantian Pavilion for a while. I must consider this matter carefully. On saying this, she rose and walked to one side, leaving behind a crowd of stunned people. Was she just going to abandon all her guests? Other than a few maids, all of the important people of Brahma's pure sky had left. There was a strange look on Yi Futian's face. Were all of them candidates? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian was not the only one who was surprised. A look of shock came over all the cultivators at the Xiantian pavilion. Yi Futian was not the only one who was surprised. A look of shock came over all the cultivators at the Xiantian pavilion. Many people were looking at Yin Tianyu of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, and then at Yi Futian. If there were candidates, the two of them were definitely among them. As for the others, they were just secondary characters in this. Many serving maids walked among them, saying, "Xiantian Pavilion has arranged places for all of you. We will take you to your places now to rest. Of course, if you wish to leave, you may do so at any time." The Xiantian goddess had already officially announced that Qin he would have to choose a spiritual partner. This was a situation that affected almost all of the Heavenly Mandate realm. How could they all just leave? Naturally, they took their places. They all looked at each other and then started looking all around Xiantian Pavilion. There were also many of the cultivators who studied under goddess Xiantian there at Xiantian Pavilion. They were cultivating. It was a huge area, with many pavilions and gazebos, ancient palaces and temples, and platforms for cultivating, fighting and martial arts displays. Yi Futian and those with him were set up in one of the pavilions. The serving woman said, "If you need anything, just call, and we will come immediately." "Thank you," said Yi Futian with a slight nod. The serving woman left. The people from the celestial gate of vast heaven all looked surprised. Hua Qingyun looked at Yi Futian, saying, "What is Goddess Qin he doing? Could it be that she has not even thought about this yet?" Yi Futian did not understand what Brahma's pure sky was doing either. Was this their plan, or had it been Qin he's idea? This was a confusing situation, and it was becoming even more incomprehensible by the moment. Perhaps Goddess Qin he wanted to see how we would react to this. Otherwise, she could end up very embarrassed if she was refused, said Hua Qingyun with a smile. "If Qin he made the offer to you, would you refuse her?" Yi Futian said nothing for a while. "Qin he would be furious if you refused her. She might even choose the Heavenly Mandate dynasty," said Hua Qingyun with a smile. Yi Futian had a bit of a headache. Perhaps he should take the initiative and seek out Qin he to ask her why Brahma's pure sky was doing this? If it was really like Hua Qingyun had said, and Brahma's pure sky and the Heavenly Mandate dynasty made a marriage alliance, then that would be an absolute disaster for the celestial gate of vast heaven. The first one to be damaged by this would be third brother. The Heavenly Mandate dynasty wanted his life. "In a bit, I will go and find out what I can," said Yi Futian softly. No one said anything else, and they all parted. After a while, someone came as Yi Futian was resting in the courtyard. A serving girl walked up to him and bowed slightly. "Lord Yi, Virgin Genie wishes to pay you a call." "Show her in," said Yi Futian. The serving girl nodded and left. After a moment, a magnificently beautiful figure entered. Yi Futian had crossed paths with her several times. Genie had first seen Yi Futian at Celestial Demon City. Back then, Zhu Yan the Beast had formed a matrix and challenged the human cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate realm. Yi Futian had performed admirably then and even outshone the Violet Heavenly Palace. However, although he had been outstanding then, Genie could not have imagined just how talented he actually was. Before long, he had become one of the foremost figures of the age. Although the prophet had predicted that she would become one of the 9 goddesses, she was still a little bit speechless in front of Yi Futian. Yi Futian had seen the prophet as well on that day. What had he predicted? "Lord Yi." Virgin Genie bowed to him. Yi Futian bowed slightly as well. "We have met several times before, Virgin Genie. I trust you have been well?" "No need to be so polite, Lord Yi," said Virgin Genie with a smile. She looked at the people around Yi Futian. When they met her eyes, Yi Wuchen, Xia Qingyuan, and the others all knew what she was thinking. "Very well. What can I do for you?" said Yi Futian with a smile. Xia Qingyuan looked at Virgin Genie warily. Why had yet another beautiful woman come? Genie nodded slightly, then walked over to Yi Futian's side. "What do you think of Goddess Qin he?" she said softly. Yi Futian was stunned. The people around him looked at Genie as well. The black-winged condor stretched his head forward, and Xia Qingyuan's heart tightened. She narrowed her beautiful eyes as she stared ahead. Yi Futian looked at Genie in amazement. "Goddess Qin is incredible, both in terms of her talent and her beauty. She is one of the best of her generation. In the future, she will certainly become a top figure in Brahma's pure sky. You know that that's not what I'm talking about, Virgin Genie said to Yi Futian. Yi Futian looked back at her and was silent for a while. Then he said, "If you have something to say, don't hesitate to say it. I'm not quite sure what you mean." Virgin Genie nodded. "Fine, then I will speak frankly. If Qin He chooses you, will you accept her offer?" Xia Qingyuan and the others around Yi Futian tensed. They all looked at him. Yi Futian stared at Genie. He had said to Xia Qingyuan that Brahma's pure sky must have had their reasons for holding this event, but so far, he did not understand them. Thus, Yi Futian did not directly answer Genie. Instead, he said, "Brahma's pure sky is the ultimate force in the heavenly mandate realm. Anyone would be willing. Remaining neutral would be the best choice for them. They do not need to get involved in any disputes. Otherwise, no matter who they choose to help win, the one who gains the most will not be Brahma's pure sky. Thus, there is no need for Brahma's pure sky to get involved. Also, if this is all because they want to have Qin He enter the mortal world to cultivate, there are many other ways to accomplish that. Why would she need to find a spiritual partner to enter the mortal world? Moreover, there is no precedent for this in Brahma's pure sky. I am not clear on their intentions in this. Please enlighten me." After saying this, Yi Futian looked at Genie and waited for her reply. But Genie just shook her head at him and did not answer directly. Instead, she transmitted, "I don't know either. This was an order from the higher-ups at Brahma's pure sky. Even Qin He cannot go against it. She could only make her gamble. If she could have prevented you all from coming up to the Xiantian Pavilion with the Xiantian Matrix, then she would have won. But you already know what happened there." There were some things that Genie could not casually say in Xiantian Pavilion. Moreover, it seemed that her knowledge was limited. This was an order from up above. At the very least, it had come from someone at Goddess Jyotian's level. It had possibly even come from Brahma's pure sky empress. In that case, then there was very likely no room for this matter to change. Was it already set in stone? "Lord Yi, Qin He and I have known each other for many years. I know how proud she is. She has practiced for Her Majesty all along, hoping that one day she could reach her level. What is happening now is not what she would have wished, but if she must choose a spiritual partner, then she is closest to you in temperament. It is very likely that she will choose you. That is why I specifically came here to talk to you." Genie was still communicating telepathically with Yi Futian, staring at him the whole time. Last time, when Qin He had returned to Brahma's pure sky with him, she seemed to have evaluated him quite highly. She had not rejected him. She remembered that when she had left, it had been unwillingly. Xia Qingyuan could naturally tell that they were transmitting their thoughts to each other. This made her even tenser. What were they talking about that they could not say it openly? Was it something shameful? Yi Futian was silent. This matter was not what Qin He had wished. Nor was it what he wanted. But if Brahma's pure sky ordered it, Qin He could not go against her masters. Perhaps there is still a way to change things, Yi Futian transmitted to Genie. Genie looked back at him and sighed inwardly. Even though Yi Futian had not directly refused, as he had not said, no, many people had come here for Qin He. Many of them were powerful figures from powerful forces, and they were all that could be wished for. Yin Tianyu, the prince of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, was one of them. But Yi Futian clearly did not have his heart set upon Qin He. Otherwise, he would not have hesitated and would have answered directly. A faint look of disappointment flashed in her eyes. At that moment, there was the sound of a fierce collision from outside, and then the faint sound of Guqin music. Yi Futian looked up outside of the palace and reached out with his spiritual energy. He could feel the will of the great path trembling violently. It seems as if a fight had broken out. With all these powerful figures from top forces gathered together at Xiantian Pavilion, it was inevitable that there would be some friction. Genie looked up as well, then said, "Shall we go and see?" "All right," Yi Futian nodded. He did not know how he should respond to Genie. The group of them traveled upwards. They soon reached an empty space up above Xiantian Pavilion. Many people had gathered there. One of the two fighters was from Sky Demon Court. It was a great peacock demon who was astonishingly strong. However, the peacock demon was being firmly suppressed. The person who was fighting him was sitting cross-legged as he played the guqin. Each note set the great path trembling powerfully. The figures of demonic beasts appeared all around him. There were divine dragons, ancient phoenixes, chelints, and cranes swirling around him. The image of a giant, golden-winged bird flew through the air, swooping down towards the peacock demon. Ding! The guqin strings trembled, making the clouds themselves move. The great path roared as countless divine sounds entered into the giant bird. Brilliant divine light burst into being, making a fierce burst of energy explode out of the giant bird. Bang! The air trembled fiercely, and the peacock demon was sent flying backward. Many of its feathers seemed to have been torn out. This man has integrated divine sounds into his attack spells, thought Yi Futian as he watched Yen Sui. This cultivator who had come from Shangxiao Divine Palace was exceedingly talented. The Sky Demon Court is strong indeed, and their cultivators have gathered here like clouds. But my brother Yi Tianyu is still a hero of Shangxiao Divine Palace. Thus, none of you will get to fight him, said Yen Sui with a slight smile. It seemed that he had taken this chance to fight on Yi Tianyu's behalf. When they heard this, many of the other demons wanted to get involved, but Yen Sui seemed to have lost interest. He turned and looked at Yi Futian. He smiled slightly and said, "Right now, the person that I most wish to test is Brother Yi. Why don't we play a tune? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Everyone turned their eyes towards Yi Futian after hearing what Yen Sui said. No one was not aware of the feud between the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Furthermore, Yi Futian decided to get involved, and he had beaten 9 mighty ones from the dynasty, who teamed up against him. Everyone turned their eyes towards Yi Futian after hearing what Yen Sui said. No one was not aware of the feud between the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Furthermore, Yi Futian decided to get involved, and he had beaten 9 mighty ones from the dynasty, who teamed up against him. Yen Sui was from the Shangxiao Divine Palace, and so, it was apparent that he was even more versed in divine sound. His intention was spoken for with his attempt to spar with Yi Futian. He was looking for a partner, and everyone in the realm all thought the crown prince of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty or Yi Futian stood the greatest chance. Judging from He's attitude, Yi Futian's chances might have been even greater. If He were to decide according to her own feelings, it was extremely possible that she pick Yi Futian. At such a moment, if Yen Sui wanted to help Yi Tianyu out, then the best way to do it would have been to overpower Yi Futian. If Yi Futian were to lose to Yen Sui, then he would have practically lost his qualification to fight against Yi Tianyu. Yi Futian naturally understood Yen Sui's intentions. He looked at Yen Sui, who was all smiles and behaved politely, making the other man look mild-mannered and courteous, without a hint of ill intentions found. "Music, huh?" Yi Futian asked. "Indeed." Yen Sui nodded. "So, you majored in music in the Shangxiao Divine Palace, then?" Yi Futian asked. "I'm of the Divine Sound Palace of Shangxiao Divine Palace, after all." Yen Sui smiled and replied, behaving in an unusually amicable manner. Yi Futian nodded and continued, "I've said before that while I know something about music, I'm not very proficient in it. My training in music would be the weakest among all the ways I've trained in, and I'm rather rusty. Since you're from Shangxiao Divine Palace and a student of Divine Sound Palace, I'm sure that you're very versed in the art of music and well above me." Everyone felt rather puzzled hearing Yi Futian talk, wondering when he had become so humble. Zhang Yuan and the others from the Violet Heavenly Palace were especially curious. They all had their eyes fixed at him. Zhang Yuan would have never forgotten just how boastful and unbridled Yi Futian had been back in the Violet Heavenly Palace. He behaved as though everything was beneath him, claiming that he trained in all ways and was of a divine body of the heavenly path. He was cocky unlike any other. Yet now, he is this humble? They wondered. So much so that he claims that he is below Yen Sui. Is he trying to say that he knows that he is no match for Yen Sui when it comes to music, And so he is deliberately humbling himself just to avoid having to face Yen Sui in a showdown of music? They thought. Maybe it wouldn't reflect all that poorly on him even if he loses? Then would you mind sparring by using other powers? Yen Sui then added, I'm fine with it. We'll just do it using music. Yi Futian continued, since you're in favor of music, then it wouldn't be a bad idea to use music. However, I'd like to use a guqin that was once used by a renhuang, which contains imperial will. In doing so, I'll be able to compensate for my lack of training in music. But then again, if you think having me doing so would be taking advantage of you, you're welcome to use a renhuang level instrument as well. Never mind. Yen Sui then continued, please do as you wish. Yi Futian smiled as he nodded before walking out. There was already an empty space before them due to the previous battle, which was huge, given how the crowd had retreated far away, preventing any interference with the session. Yi Futian came to sit cross-legged across Yen Sui. Both very handsome and exceptional men were sitting across each other. Both of them exuded a scholarly aura about them. Yi Futian's long silver hair made him appear even more vivid. After you, Yi Futian nodded at Yen Sui and said, after you, Yen Sui nodded in reply. He did not switch the guqin before him for another. That instrument remained a common guqin. It was as if to say that he was absolutely confident in his mastery of the art. Are you not going to swap the instrument for another? Yi Futian asked. We'll go about it just like this. I'd swap the instrument for another if I find it inadequate, Yen Sui replied. Yi Futian nodded lightly and did not say anything else. Light sparkled, and a guqin appeared right before Yi Futian. Pitch-black aura coursed about the guqin, which became even more apparent and violent, as Yi Futian infused his will within. It was as if those were auras of the demonic path. A demonic instrument? Yen Sui looked intrigued, wondering if Yi Futian had trained in demonic ways as well. The guqin was something that Yi Futian acquired back when he participated in the Peach Banquet. It was a magic zither. There was no way he would have let go of one such piece throughout the years. He had been attempting to communicate with the instrument and had finally built a relationship with the magic zither to a certain extent. Yi Futian put his fingers on the strings and began plucking. As the notes danced, extremely powerful demonic will pierced right through the space in an instant, seeping into Yen Sui's mind. Yen Sui's mind shuddered furiously, and his expression changed somewhat. He realized that he might have been too careless before. He began plucking the strings on his instrument. The sound of the guqin danced in the air in an instant. The shadows of many divine beasts circled around him, and a shadow of a divine turtle appeared above him, seemingly shrouding his entire being within. At the same time, he sent countless notes at Yi Futian. However, Yi Futian did not merely sit by and take the attack. Demonic sound being played, and raging demonic will swept all over the place, sounding extremely overbearing. It punched through those incoming notes right away and gushed at Yen Sui. The overbearing notes from Yi Futian banged on the shadow of the divine turtle, causing it to begin cracking. There seemed to be an overbearing demon appearing, which lifted its hand and crushed that shadow of the divine turtle right away. The demonic sound permeated everywhere, making it extremely ferocious. Even those who were watching from afar felt extremely pained. It was as if their will were to be subdued. That boundless, overwhelming sound surged into Yen Sui's mind, as if it was about to sink him. That was done in terms of spiritual will, compelling him to kneel and worship Yi Futian. When he looked at Yi Futian, it felt as if he was looking at a legendary demon king. Yen Sui's face changed drastically, and his hands plucked the strings in a frenzy. Divine sound burst all over the place, and he became shrouded in waves of dazzling divine sound, which seeped into his mind as well as being thrown at the terrifying demonic sound. Yen Sui's body was repelled all of a sudden after a rumble was heard. It was as if he was being thrown away. Light dazzled all about him, and his eyes were shining with blinding divine light when he said, "That should do it." Yi Futian, who was playing with his head hung low, stopped playing altogether. That terrifying demonic will disappeared without a trace. Yi Futian then looked up at Yen Sui, whose eyes became extremely solemn. His expression changed somewhat. He had never expected himself to have made such a grave mistake. He had underestimated his enemy. It was especially so when Yi Futian claimed to have been inferior, which made him think that he could overpower Yi Futian using music altogether. He never thought that all of that had only been a ruse on Yi Futian's part. The other man went as far as to humiliate himself, just to show that his proficiency in music was lacking, creating an illusion saying that he would lose easily. With that, one wondered what the crowd thought of the scene when compared to what Yi Futian said before. Zhang Yuan glared at Yi Futian and realized why he had behaved in such a humble manner. Yi Futian was doing so just to bring about the effect that was currently seen. That guy really has no bounds when it comes to methods. He actually dared to humiliate himself just so to make Yen Sui lose face altogether, he thought. Well played. Yi Futian put the demonic instrument away and said to Yen Sui, "Your proficiency in the art of music far exceeded my expectations, Sir Yi. Your mastery is on par with masters, and there is no need for you to humble yourself as you did." Yen Sui continued, "It seems like it was me who made the mistake of belittling cultivators of heavenly mandate realm, and now I suffer the consequences. This is indeed quite a lesson, which I shall bear in mind from here on out." Yi Futian looked at Yen Sui, not expecting the other man to behave so amicably. He was impressed at the bearing of that genius who was from the Shangxiao Divine Palace. If Yi Futian were to be able to make a representative of the Shangxiao Divine Palace slip in their performance, it would naturally reflect poorly on Yi Tianyu. Well, I told you before, little brother, that Yi Futian is a top-notch genius in the heavenly mandate realm. You've indeed been careless. A figure was seen walking out, and it was none other than the Crown Prince himself. It was indeed my mistake. Yen Sui nodded. However, it is indeed true that Yi Futian played a trick by sparring with you using a guqin of a demonic emperor, and you were caught off guard. As such, it is not a true contest of music, and there is no need to mind all that much, little brother. You only need to remember the lesson well, Yi Tianyu continued. The ones from Shangxiao Divine Palace nodded and cast their gaze at Yi Futian, which looked somewhat hostile. It was apparent that Yen Sui had been set up by Yi Futian. At that moment, a cultivator of Shangxiao Divine Palace emerged. He bowed at Yi Futian, saying, "Yu Qing of the Shangxiao Divine Palace. I'd like to spar with Sir Yi." "So you people are trying to fight yet another round then?" A figure from the side of the celestial gate of vast heaven emerged. The one who spoke was Hua Qingyun. He looked at the ones from Shangxiao Divine Palace and said, "You people were the ones who proposed sparring using music before, and Yi Futian had been as honest as he could have been. Yet, you people are reluctant to admit defeat and continue to propose yet another challenge then? Are you a student of the celestial gate of vast heaven?" Yu Qing turned to Hua Qingyun and asked. "Hua Qingyun of the celestial gate of vast heaven." Hua Qingyun smiled and answered, "Yu Qing of Shangxiao Divine Palace." "After you." Yu Qing bowed slightly at Hua Qingyun, and everyone was baffled. None had expected Yu Qing to have switched his target so quickly and chose to challenge Hua Qingyun, who was of the same plane as Yi Futian. The turn of events was indeed unexpected. However, since Hua Qingyun claimed that they were trying to fight another round, then there would have been no problem for one of them to challenge him then. Other than the Sky Demon Court and the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, those from the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven were anything but weak as well. While they were unable to compare with those two major forces, they fared a lot better than many other forces, especially when their top-notch figures, Jiang Taichu, Hua Qingyun, Wang Yanbing, Yi Futian, and some others, were concerned. Even if Gu Donglu had not shown up, the ones present were still the best of the best, and they were all capable of holding their own. From the looks of things, it seemed that those of Shangxiao Divine Palace of Higher Heaven's realm were about to clash with those from the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. As such, things from then on out would be interesting. Jiang Taichu, Wang Yanbing, and the others had yet to fight, after all. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Hua Qingyun looked at Yu Qing and smiled faintly. He stood tall and said plainly, "The students of Shangxiao Divine Palace are indeed dashing and humble in seeking to learn. However, I'm currently not in the mood to teach." Hua Qingyun looked at Yu Qing and smiled faintly. He stood tall and said plainly, "The students of Shangxiao Divine Palace are indeed dashing and humble in seeking to learn. However, I'm currently not in the mood to teach." Yu Qing, the crowd, Yi Futian was utterly baffled at how pretentious Hua Qingyun was. "You're indeed some genius from the celestial gate of vast heaven. You really couldn't have been more celestial, indeed," he thought. The student of the Shangxiao Divine Palace frowned. While such seeking spirit could have had different meanings, especially that between those of the same generation, it would have meant a challenge. Hua Qingyun deliberately went about twisting things around. "Well then, I humbly seek your guidance." Despite being momentarily baffled, Yu Qing was hardly fazed and appeared normal. Yu Qing went on to actually humbly seek his guidance, instead. "I don't have the time," Hua Qingyun smiled and replied. "Humbly seek my guidance? What the hell?" Hua Qingyun thought. Yi Futian was present, and if he were just to nod, Hua Qingyun thought that Yi Futian's chances would have been unlike any other. Qin He's attitude in the matter mattered a lot after all. Furthermore, he was able to see that Virgin Genie and her people went to look for Yi Futian just to get on with that matter after all. If Yi Futian's chances of being selected were far higher than that of Yi Tianyu, to begin with, Hua Qingyun saw no need to waste their time any further over there. The people of Shangxiao Divine Palace intended to show what they were capable of, yet they lost again and again, which Hua Qingyun found boring. Furthermore, the matter was not something that could have been decided by determining the winner of sparring sessions, after all. The key to the decision lied with the upper echelons of Brahma's pure sky, as well as Qin He's own attitude on the matter. The people of Shangxiao Divine Palace looked at Hua Qingyun with a baffled expression. They were rendered speechless. "Aren't you from the celestial gate of vast heaven? Why are you such a coward?" A sarcastic voice was heard. Hua Qingyun and the others turned around, finding the one who talked to be rather ugly, yet they dressed in extremely lavish clothing. It was a mighty one from the purple gold rat clan. The rats knew that their chances were slim and had only been watching the show so far, seeing how the titans clashed. They never expected Hua Qingyun to behave in such a manner. He was the man who was lauded as the number one among the later generations of the Hua clan, yet he refused to answer to a challenge. But then again, it was also the rats' wish to not see the celestial gate of vast heaven get any larger than they already were. It would have been better if they were overrun and crushed by the heavenly mandate dynasty, which would have resulted in utter defeat for both parties, and that would have benefited the rats. Gu Donglu contained the luck of all demon realm in him. Gu Tianxing intended to have Gu Donglu become the new king of the demon realm, and the rats deemed the older man to have been naive. "Since when did you rats have a say in this?" Hua Qingyun turned around and looked at that mighty one from the purple gold rat clan. The rise of the ancestor of the rats had never been something to be proud of in the first place, and he was baffled at how they dared to say something that's sarcastic at the moment. The mighty one was obviously offended. Intense cold was felt from him, which he directed at Hua Qingyun. The purple gold rat clan hated being called rats above anything else, as they saw it to be the greatest insult. It was easy to tell from Hua Qingyun's tone that the student of Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven despised the rats from the bottom of his heart. The rats stomped on the ground and charged forward. Many rat demons followed suit, bringing their might down on Hua Qingyun. "We of the Purple Gold Rat Clan are now a supreme force of the demon realm, reigning on par with the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. You, a student of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, dare to insult us?" A mighty one from the rats berated in a cold tone. Many mighty ones from the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven emerged and came behind Hua Qingyun. They burst with overwhelming auras, and auras from both sides clashed in midair, forming a raging current, which spread throughout the Xiantian pavilion. Hua Qingyun remained unfazed and stood tall where he was. He then glared at the other party and asked, "Aren't the Purple Gold Rat Clan rat demons? If you are indeed rats, why would you need to take offense at being called so? Why would you need to mask your inferiority complex by calling it an insult? If you people are unable to take even that much, why step out and butt into other people's business in the first place?" The mighty ones of the Purple Gold Rat Clan looked grim, and one of them emerged, glaring at Hua Qingyun. He said, "We're not butting into the affairs of others. We rat demons are just eager to see just what the geniuses of the Celestial Gate are made of. I suggest that you people stop humiliating yourselves further." Hua Qingyun's voice was mild-mannered. He remained looking nonchalant as he stood around, behaving in a loose, unfettered manner, without the slightest hint of taking a fight seriously, which was a stark contrast to the attitude of those of the rats. That mighty one of the rats turned into a bolt of lightning as soon as Hua Qingyun finished, charging straight at Hua Qingyun. Dazzling golden divine light pierced through space, and the terrifying demonic aura burst ragingly. Boom! Celestial light burst from Hua Qingyun's body in an instant, shooting to the heavens. One terrifying mirage after another appeared and burst all over the place, heading straight for that mighty rat. Countless mirages of Hua Qingyun lashed out with their palm attacks. A terrifying golden rat demon appeared right above his head, ferociously extending its claws. He tore apart the mirages one after another. However, the mirages continued to stack, and they seemed to have grown increasingly strong. A loud rumble was heard, and a celestial shadow clashed with that huge, ferocious shadow of the rat demon. Raging celestial light burst and permeated the place. That mighty rat was shocked and flung behind, repelled to the sky above. His eyes remained extremely cold as he glared at Hua Qingyun below. However, the celestial light from Hua Qingyun shot to the heavens. The mirages disappeared, and he remained standing where he was quietly as if he had never made a single move. Mystical way of the Hua clan, the mystical cloud ladder, the crowd muttered as they witnessed the scene. Both the Hua clan and the Jiang clan inherited their own mystical ways, and they were all very formidable. The mystical cloud ladder was said to be able to climb the mystical ladder using the power of the great path of the world, breaking the limitations of plane advancement. When trained to the extreme, one would have even been able to break through planes using mystical ways forcefully, and its power was said to be unmatched. Such a mystical method was extremely demanding to train, requiring years of excruciating training before being able to make substantial progress step by step. It was said that the mystical cloud ladder had 1,000 layers. Rumors claimed that one would only be able to make minor achievements after training for 100 years, and major ones could have only been achieved by training for 1,000 years. As such, those of the Hua clan began training in the method from a very young age. The mighty ones of the purple gold rat clan in the air had gotten increasingly ferocious with their attacks. Purple golden demonic aura permeated the sky, and there was even an extremely ferocious large creature being conjured. It was a rat demon that was boundlessly huge. It sported golden eyes and appeared extremely terrifying and brutal. Many wore puzzled expression at the scene. It had been the ones from the Shangxiao Divine Palace wanting to fight Hua Qingyun before, but none expected the rats to interfere. Hua Qingyun looked up at the sky. Mystical shadows burst in layers over his body, melding with the great path all around him. A high-pitched screech was heard, and that rat demon pounced on Hua Qingyun yet again. The huge demon lunged with claws extended and fangs bared at Hua Qingyun's mystical shadows, devouring them as he went. It was as if he was out to devour them all in one go. Hua Qingyun extended his hand and waved, and the many mirages in the air did the same. He was seen striking out with his palm, causing his surroundings to shift as countless shadows did the same. That huge rat demon that pounced devoured all the shadows, but its huge frame continued to tremble. It was as if the shadows had all been destroyed. The huge demon rat's body trembled and roared. A huge mystical shadow appeared in the air as if it was a manifestation of multiple mirages. The air trembled violently as he struck out. That rat demon howled in a frenzy, before being destroyed altogether. The mighty one from the purple gold rat clan behind turned pale. Celestial light sparkled, and Hua Qingyun's body seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. He clapped at the rat demon. In that instant, the rat demon felt the space it was in was about to be shattered. That seemingly light touch of a palm contained unparalleled powers. The rat demon spewed blood and was blasted away. The students of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven indeed live up to their name. Since we're all here in heavenly mandate realm, we naturally need to see for ourselves what the pinnacle beings of the realm are made of. A voice was heard, and Yu Qing walked out. He charged straight at Hua Qingyun without bothering to seek consent. Yu Qing thrust his palm out, and a large palm print capable of shattering space appeared in the air, bearing down on Hua Qingyun. The mighty ones of the celestial gate of vast heaven frowned at the scene. A figure was seen stepping out in the air, who then thrust a finger at the palm print of the great path. Terrifying pressure appeared in the air. The ones from the divine palace saw that others were interfering, and more mighty ones emerged with overbearing aura. In that case, we of the Shangxiao divine palace shall see what you all are made of. Mighty ones from the celestial gate of vast heaven emerged to intercept. As such, there were more and more mighty ones from both sides emerging. Many mighty ones from the Shangxiao divine palace, heavenly mandate dynasty, and the celestial gate of vast heaven emerged, clashing with one another and making the scene look severe. It seemed that a single sparring session had spiraled into a group fight instead. This is getting messy. The ones from other forces sported baffled expression, seeing what happened. The scene seemed to have spiraled out of control. The mighty ones of the Purple Gold Rat clan took the opportunity to lash out at the ones from the celestial gate of vast heaven without mercy, thinking it best to bring about a war. It would make things worse between the celestial gate of vast heaven and the heavenly mandate realm. It could offend those from the Shangxiao divine palace, too. While the Shangxiao divine palace of higher heavens plane did not concern themselves with what their students did outside, the top-notch students themselves were all of impressive backgrounds. There were even some who hailed from top-notch forces of other supreme realms. The messier the situation at hand, the better it would have been for the rats. Yi Futian's expression turned cold seeing the scene. There was nothing to say about the conflict between them and the heavenly mandate dynasty, as both were destined to stand on opposing sides. However, he was able to see that the rats had indeed deliberately tried to make things worse, as they could have just watched from the sidelines. Furthermore, he had never actually paid much heed to how those of the rats acted against him back at the Origin Mountains, and he certainly did not expect them to meddle in his affairs once again. He cast his gaze in one direction and flashed, emerging like a bolt of lightning. The world around them shook as Yi Futian stepped out, making the minds of all those around him jump. The divine elephant stomping the sky spell was extremely overbearing, after all. The expression of a mighty one of the Purple Gold Rat clan changed all of a sudden saw. Yi Futian emerged right before him, throwing out a punch. That punch seemed like divine elephants going on a stampede, shattering the space about and with a rumble. That rat demon was sent flying. If the rats wanted to be a part of this so badly, it was time to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're too much. You're too much. The mighty ones of the Purple Gold Rat clan saw how powerful Yi Futian's aura was, and several of them pounced onto him immediately. Holiness of Nirvanas. Yi Futian took one look at them and found that there were Holiness of Nirvana-class monsters among those mighty ones. Many of them launched forward at the same time, extending their demonic auras to shroud the space Yi Futian was in. The huge shadows of the rats pounced and tore down the stampeding divine elephants. A terrifying shadow of the divine elephant appeared above him after seeing several of the rat monsters coming at him. Trumpeting of elephants were heard from above him. The space trembled, and the bone of the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions burst within him. Boom! When Yi Futian stepped out once again, a terrifying scene appeared above in the sky. The elephants rushed and stomped the sky. The shadows of the rats were crushed outright as they were stomped on by the rushing divine elephants. Furthermore, those mighty ones of the Purple Gold Rat clan felt stifled. It was as if their souls were being put under terrifying pressure. Yi Futian stepped out again. He looked like a giant god of the divine elephants when he stood tall in the air, so much so that the holiness of nirvanas among the rats felt an overwhelming pressure all about them. Those rats stopped moving. When Yi Futian lifted his feet and began walking, that handsome silver-haired young man seemed to have become extremely tall and imposing, like that of a god. The divine elephant shadow, which shrouded his body, moved alongside him. Yi Futian stomped at the next moment, causing the divine elephant to do the same. Thousands of elephants trumpeted in an instant as they tore through the sky. One rat was sent flying right while spitting up blood. It seemed that his powerful defenses were unable to do nothing to protect it. The blood in its body raged and howled, while his bones continued to break. Trembling noise continued to be heard, and one rat after another was sent flying almost at the same time. One of the rats, who was a holiness of nirvana, continued to charge forward. Yi Futian took a look at him and threw a single punch. That space exploded in a frenzy at that very instant. The terrifying, devastating attack blasted onto the body of that holiness of nirvana rat, causing him to grunt in pain. His bones broke, and blood spilled all over before he was sent flying. It took mere moments to cause internal damage to all the rats who were in front of Yi Futian. No one was left standing before him as everyone was downed. The bone of the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions. A holiness of nirvana rat monster coldly eyed Yi Futian from elsewhere. His body then rose to the air, and he began walking towards Yi Futian. Towering demonic aura swept all over the place from his hand, which was holding a terrifying ritual implement, an imperial-level piece, causing him to emanate extremely threatening aura. He stepped out and walked towards Yi Futian, emanating an extremely terrifying and ferocious aura. Yi Futian looked down, gazing at the rat as he stood above in the sky. Those dazzling yet pitched black eyes of his exuded contempt. Celestial light burst, and he shot for the clouds. A celestial soul was conjured above him shortly after. Yi Futian's eyes came to look demonic at that moment. The rat, who was shooting above, flinched slightly as if he sensed the threat posed by that soul. Yi Futian looked at the rat and took one step down as if he was stepping onto the soul of that rat. The rat dazzled all over, and an incredibly huge rat shadow appeared, shrouding his soul. Yi Futian walked right to the rat and threw a punch up close. That huge rat lashed out with his claws in retaliation, clashing with Yi Futian's punch. A raging hurricane whipped out through the sky, shredding the space all around them. Yet, there was a silhouette seen within that huge rat shadow. It was as if it was about to be shaken out of the body by the terrifying tremor, causing that huge rat body to stay fixed in the air as if time had stopped altogether. Yi Futian threw yet another punch without mercy, blasting at the sky. Blood was seen spilling from that rat's mouth as he was sent flying and crashed hard onto the ground. The rat's body trembled violently, and he looked extremely disheveled. His soul was severely damaged as well. The ritual implement that he had taken out was not actually of much use. His soul was overwhelmed and damaged. There was no doubt that if they were to continue fighting, Yi Futian would have ended up killing him. That rat was a holiness of nirvana, yet he seemed utterly helpless in front of Yi Futian. Yi Futian did not stop there. He continued stepping out. Every single strike caused a mighty one of the purple gold rats to end up severely injured, allowing others to free up their hands to take on those from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. He, on the other hand, did not do anything against those from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. He behaved as if that had been his plan all along. Enough! A demonic emperor-class figure of the rats was heard saying. His voice reverberated throughout the place. His might shrouded the entire battlefield. It was apparent that it was not only the saints who showed up at the scene. Renhuang and demonic emperors of a myriad of forces were present as well, and they were all very powerful. Seeing a demonic emperor appear among the rats, the Renhuang of the celestial gate of vast heaven emanated towering pressure as well. The fighting throughout the battlefield was halted for the time being, even between the celestial gate of vast heaven and Heavenly Mandate dynasty. Everyone turned their eyes to a single direction. That silver-haired figure dressed in white stood tall in the air and looked extremely dazzling. He alone defeated all the mighty ones of the purple gold rat clan who attacked, causing the rats to look extremely beaten down as they laid there, defeated. None of the rats had been able to stand against him, which resulted in that scene right there and then. Yi Futian turned his eyes at the demonic emperor of the rats and said, "Didn't you rat people ask for this in the first place?" His actions against the purple gold rat clan were to serve as a warning. The fighting between the celestial gate of vast heaven and heavenly mandate dynasty had nothing to do with the rats in the first place. If the rats intended to meddle in their affairs, then he would have emerged to subdue them. The mighty ones who were all downed at the time made it clear that all they did was tantamount to asking to be insulted. "Step down," the demonic emperor of the rats said. One rat after another flashed and backed away, looking very displeased. That battle was like a slaughter instead, and it seemed as if all of them had been taken down by just a single person, making all talk about fighting to be nothing but a joke on their part. All the other forces who were only there for the show were somewhat shocked as well. A force without such top-notch geniuses would surely end up being squashed by one figure after another. It was no surprise why he claimed before that Yi Futian was qualified to fight to become the most brilliant one below the Renhuang of the realm. Many mighty ones from Heavenly Mandate Realm and Shangxiao Divine Palace eyed him. While the battle was one that was fought in a rush, what Yi Futian had just pulled moments ago compelled them to take him seriously. There was perhaps only a handful of people even from a place like Shangxiao Divine Palace capable of fighting him after all. The rats all backed away from the battlefield without saying anything, as they had lost the right to do so altogether. Although the fight was brief, things were undoubtedly dire, nonetheless. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. After the purple gold rat clan backed down, the ones from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and those from the celestial gate of vast heaven glared at each other. It seemed as if a formless fire of war had enveloped the entire place. After the purple gold rat clan backed down, the ones from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and those from the celestial gate of vast heaven glared at each other. It seemed as if a formless fire of war had enveloped the entire place. "You're all still at the Xiantian Pavilion, and I implore you all to restrain yourselves." A voice was heard at that moment. The mighty ones were all able to sense that powerful might, which was from the Xiantian goddess. "Please forgive our trespassing, goddess." Lin Yu of Shangxiao Divine Palace bowed and gestured at the air above. They were at the Xiantian Pavilion of Brahma's pure sky, after all, and their action of going for each other's throats without any regard for the rules was definitely rather rude. With the goddess emerging to interfere personally, there was no way they could have continued fighting. The students of Divine Music Palace at those from Shangxiao Divine Palace. Yen Sui looked at Yi Futian and said, "I hope to seek your guidance again if the opportunity presents itself, Sir Yi." He then turned around and left after saying that. The sparring session with music that he extended to Yi Futian saw him losing to the other man, suppressed by the demonic instrument as he had been too sure of himself. Even though he had indeed been tricked by Yi Futian, he was still at fault nonetheless. Yi Futian told Yen Sui that he was about to use a Renhuang-class guqin, yet Yen Sui paid no heed to it. As such, he ended up being defeated by the demonic tune from the instrument right away. Furthermore, Yi Futian's actions at overwhelming those from the purple gold rat clan compelled him to reassess Yi Futian's combat prowess as well. He was not alone in that, as everyone from Shangxiao Divine Palace had probably underestimated that young genius cultivator of Heavenly Mandate Realm. The people of Shangxiao Divine Palace turned around and left one after another. Yi Tianyu shot a look at Yi Futian as he passed by as well, which seemed to have a lot of weight behind it. "Let's go," Yi Futian lowered his voice and said. Everyone turned around and left, heading for the palace which they were staying in. Xiantian Pavilion was mostly quiet again after that. Night fell, and the blue sky above Xiantian Palace shrouded the entire place in its grandeur. Yi Futian trained in peace in the palace, yet his thoughts remained somewhat restless. Footsteps were heard at the moment. Yi Futian opened his eyes and said, "Please come in, Goddess Qin." Someone came to him after he said that. She wore a cape and came alone in the night, looking rather lonesome. Qin he came before Yi Futian, smiling and asking, "Am I getting in the way of your training, Sir Yi?" Yi Futian smiled and shook his head. "I'm thinking of something as well, so much so that I came to pay you a visit." Well, that sounds like we share the same thoughts. Qin he smiled faintly and sat quietly across Yi Futian. Her jet black hair rested on her shoulders, and her skin looked even more fair and radiant under the moonlight, making her really look like some goddess who was beyond the reach of mortals. Yi Futian smiled after hearing Qin He's words, feeling rather warmed. Qin He looked at his handsome face and chose to sit and continue looking at him. Am I that good-looking? Yi Futian said in a joking tone. Indeed. Qin He nodded and continued, your looks are indeed rare in the world of cultivators. Too bad that one can't simply rely on looks to get their way about the world of cultivators. I wouldn't have needed to train otherwise, Yi Futian smiled and said. Qin He smiled beamingly at him but quickly became silent. She looked at Yi Futian's eyes and asked, I heard that Genie came to pay you a visit before? Indeed. Yi Futian nodded. What did she say? Qin He asked. Hardly anything. Yi Futian smiled and continued, there are many things that I could guess at, even if she were to not say anything after all. Qin He continued to look at Yi Futian's eyes after hearing what he said. A warm smile was seen in those deep eyes of his, which looked rather wise as well. Qin He knew that Yi Futian had really gotten it. Even if they were to say nothing, they seemed to truly know what the other was thinking. That feeling was something only experienced between soul mates, and it felt mystical. I was sent to train in Brahma's pure sky when I was very young, and becoming the Empress had always been a goal of mine. I hoped that I'd be able to create my own era someday, becoming the object of faith for all female cultivators in the world. That is one goal I've been working to achieve for years. Qin He began to talk about things that seemed unrelated to anything, but Yi Futian chose to listen quietly nonetheless. Training was hard throughout the years. I've defeated many and became a goddess of Brahma's pure sky. I'm now known as the #1, and I'm one more step closer to achieving my goal. As for the matter of a companion, it was something I had never thought about. Yi Futian was able to relate to her. She was a woman who had her sights on furthering her training. Her training was her faith, her religion, yet the ones at the upper echelons of Brahma's pure sky wanted her to marry someone all of a sudden, so she definitely was resistant to it deep down. One state of mind would have definitely been very stable if one were to be able to get into St. Plain in the first place. Even if one were to meet someone they had a liking for, it still would have been impossible for them to be swayed from that faith, which they had been holding on to for so long. Qin He looked up at Yi Futian as she said with a smile, You are of unmatched appearance, and your talents are second to none, sir. It is so much so that few in all of the heavenly mandate realm are able to compare. If I were to have met you when I was younger, I might have actually asked you out on a date and wanted to be with you. Her tone sounded somewhat joking, but those were indeed her true thoughts. Qin He really did like Yi Futian, but she did not want to see them end up like that. Please, if you keep showering me with praise, my head is going to float away. Yi Futian smiled and added, You're a rare beauty yourself, Goddess Qin. I'm afraid the likes of you are of a handful, even if you were to be compared with everyone throughout the entire heavenly mandate realm. I'm very glad to have one good friend like you too. A good friend, eh? Qin He looked at Yi Futian and smiled while saying in a low voice herself, It is a beautiful thing indeed, and I'm very happy to have gotten to know you too. The pleasure is mine. Yi Futian nodded. Qin He then rose with a smile, looking up at the crescent moon in the air, and said gently, I suppose lacking something can be beautiful after all. She then left the place shortly after, and he did not say anything more. He did not even send her off. He simply watched as her beautiful silhouette disappeared from sight. After Qin He left, Yi Futian then asked, You done snooping around? A handsome figure emerged without looking at Yi Futian, who walked past him and said in a low voice instead, Don't mind me, just passing by. Yi Futian looked at Hua Qingyan, and it was then he truly realized that the dashing heir of the Hua clan of the celestial gate of vast heaven was indeed very thick-skinned. Middle of the night. A man and a woman all alone. No flirting and all riddles. Man, this is boring, Hua Qingyan muttered as he left with his head shaking, seemingly feeling the scene to be quite pitiful. This caused Yi Futian to feel baffled. Yi Futian left and came somewhere else. There was someone sitting cross-legged there. Moonlight shone on that man's robe, making him looking regal and solemn. That man opened his eyes and called Yi Futian as the younger man walked by. Futian, he said. Teacher. Yi Futian came before Qi Xiangang and said, I need to seek your guidance. About the matter with Qin He, I suppose? Qi Xiangang asked. Indeed. Yi Futian nodded and continued, I wonder how I should make my choice, and if my choice will turn out to be correct. I get the idea more or less with the thoughts you two share. Both of you have your own resolves. So what is the problem? Qi Xiangang asked. I wonder if what I do is too self-centered, and if it will bring about a bad outcome, Yi Futian answered. Everything happening in the world has its own course, and everything is interconnected. All things that have happened have their own causes and consequences. However, no one can truly foresee the future, so how would you know if your choice would lead to a bad outcome for sure? If you were to choose another path, would it be certain that the outcome would be a good one? Qi Xiangang then continued, this is just like how it was back in Dali all those years ago. Your decision to leave was indeed a good one, but did everything happen as you expected it to afterward? Yi Futian chose to leave Dali without killing Li Yao, yet the Prince Regent went after them all the same. Yen Yuan ended up saving them. Eventually, the royalty of Dali became doubtful of the imperial advisor, which led to a series of events from then on out. In hindsight, your decision had indeed been the best. A man will only have to be able to hold their head up high and live up with their conscience with the choices they make. Regardless of what happens in the future, there will be no need for regrets then. What we can all do is to make the best out of the present instead of deciding the course of the future, Qi Xiangang continued. Yi Futian felt the weight on his shoulders being lifted after hearing what his teacher said. He then replied, I understand. Go now, Qi Xiangang said, and Yi Futian left with a nod. Qi Xiangang continued to shut his eyes to train after Yi Futian left. The light on his body dazzled as he melded with the great path. Yi Futian ceased thinking about anything else after he returned, choosing to shut his eyes to train instead. The silent night seemed unusually long, and Xiantian Pavilion itself seemed unusually quiet as well. Cultivators of all forces trained in silence, waiting for the dawn to come. Qin He would come to her conclusion on the next day. She could not have simply left all the cultivators hanging after all. Yi Futian entered a mystical, calm, and immutable state in the midnight. It was as if he was so steeped into his training that he turned into a statue, yet he sensed his will spreading and existing everywhere, allowing him to see everything. At that moment, a silhouette seemed to have appeared in his mind as he continued to train. It came seemingly out of nowhere. That face was one that he was very familiar with. What happened in the world hardly fazed him when he was steeped in training, yet when that silhouette appeared, his heart twitched violently. It was as if he had been hit by something. Jiu, Yi Futian uttered a single word. His eyes opened all of a sudden. It was as if he had forcibly yanked out of that meditative state in an instant. That silhouette in his mind gradually blurred and eventually dissipated. It was as if it had never been there in the first place. He shot to the air, and his eyes looked terrifying. He scanned the place with his will in all directions. While it was entirely possible that the phenomenon happened because he missed Jiu, his plane level would have allowed him to tell the difference. When it happened previously, he thought it was due to his spiritual well-being in a shaky state, thus causing a hallucination. But a hallucination yet again? This couldn't be. Brahma's pure sky. It definitely had something to do with the place. He pursued the silhouette all the way when he last experienced the phenomenon, and eventually came to the place where Qin He was. That was a training ground in Brahma's pure sky. The Xiantian Pavilion, which he was currently in, was within Brahma's pure sky's territory as well. Back then, Jiu was gone because she summoned the will of the Empress of Brahma's pure sky. Was it true that Jiu was truly still alive and somewhere in Brahma's pure sky then? Otherwise, how else could her appearing in my mind twice be explained? He wondered. But then again, he was puzzled as to why he was unable to see anyone anywhere. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. It was a sleepless night for everyone, and in the early morning of the next day, countless people gathered in front of the Futian pavilion in Brahma Sky City. It was a sleepless night for everyone, and in the early morning of the next day, countless people gathered in front of the Futian pavilion in Brahma Sky City. They had been paying attention to the thing going on in the Futian pavilion, which was related to Qinhe's marriage. It could even affect the political geography of the heavenly mandate realm. However, they heard that Qinhe did not make a choice yesterday but instead let the cultivators of the forces stay overnight in the Futian pavilion. On the top of Futian pavilion, a conflict had broken out, and during the battle, Futian vanquished all the warriors of the Purple Golden Rat clan with overwhelming power, greatly embarrassing them. Many people imagined how that battle was like. How powerful was Futian? Many people also felt that Qinhe was more likely to choose Futian. After all, Qinhe had a closer relationship with Futian than with others. Today, there should be a result. On the Futian pavilion, the people of all forces headed toward one place. They would come to the Futian hall, where the Futian goddess would formally summon the people of all forces. In the vast area, all forces of the heavenly mandate realm had arrived. Everyone looked toward the Futian goddess in front of the Futian hall. Beside her, Qinhe was also there. Yesterday, Qinhe had been thinking for a whole day, and now the Futian goddess would know her decision. The warriors of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven had arrived, and they stood opposite of each other. However, at this moment, they did not look at each other. Tianyu looked toward the direction of Qinhe. He knew that yesterday Qinhe went to visit where Futian and his companions lived by herself. Not only Tianyu knew, but many people knew about it too. However, would Brahma's pure sky really allow Qinhe to make such a decision? He had chatted with Qinhe in Futian City. He didn't mind her and Futian being friends, but Brahma's pure sky would not allow her to get involved with the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Now, Futian was standing on the side of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, and this time he even came here to represent the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Then, if Qinhe chose to make friends with Futian, everything was different, and it would no longer be a matter just between her and Futian. Tianyu also wanted to see what Qinhe and Brahma's pure sky would do. Everyone stayed quiet. Futian goddess's gaze fell on Qinhe. Qinhe looked toward the crowd and took a light step out. She took 2 steps forward and said, "Among all the warriors who broke into the Matrix yesterday, may I ask who wants to seek marriage with me?" After hearing Qinhe's words, people looked serious. Was Qinhe going to select? Sure enough, she would select amongst the people who challenged the Matrix, but before, there were only 3 major forces: Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven and Demon Sky Court, which could be considered as entering the Futian pavilion. A figure walked out from the crowd of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty quietly. It was Tianyu, and he was the only one who came out. In Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, no one but Tianyu was eligible to marry Qinhe. I have always admired Goddess and am willing to cultivate with you for the rest of my life. I promise that I will not let you feel lonely on your way of cultivation, Tianyu said. Although he did not need to rely on a woman to cultivate, he wouldn't mind having such an outstanding woman, such as Qinhe, as his spiritual partner. Besides, this was related to the whole heavenly mandate realm. He pursued the great path of laws, but his priority was to let the heavenly mandate dynasty stand on the top of the heavenly mandate realm. Qinhe smiled and bowed her head to Tianyu. Many people noticed Qinhe's expression and faintly felt that she seemed to have some changes and looked a little different from yesterday. But no one was clear what kind of change it was. After Tianyu stepped out, everyone's eyes suddenly turned to the direction of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, or in other words, fell on Futian. Although Demon Sky Court entered the Futian pavilion, they didn't seem to have the intention to compete, and they were not able to compete with them. They were all clear that the spiritual partner selected by Qinhe this time would surely be either Tianyu or Futian. But at this moment, Futian was standing quietly in the crowd of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, with no reaction at all. It was as if the thing had nothing to do with him. Futian also noticed people's gazes, but he was still very quiet and did not move. Many people had strange looks. What was going on? Yi Futian, he didn't want to compete with Yi Tianyu? Even the cultivators of Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven looked at Yi Futian full of doubt. People all knew that Qin He and Yi Futian had a good relationship, and they once lived in a palace together. When Yi Tianyu went to visit Qin He just received him at the gate. The difference between her attitudes toward these two men was obvious. If Yi Futian competed with Yi Tianyu, the probability of his winning was high. At least, Qin He would be inclined to choose him, as long as Brahma's pure sky did not interfere. This time, everyone had assumed that Yi Futian would compete with Yi Tianyu on behalf of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Even the Xiantian goddess was looking at Yi Futian. Her eyes were so deep that nobody could see what she was thinking, but obviously she was a little surprised. How about the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven? Xiantian goddess even asked. Hua Qingyun gave Yi Futian a strange look. He overheard some of Qin He's conversation with Yi Futian yesterday. Did this guy really want to give up? So, what would Qin He choose to do? Yi Futian looked toward Qin He. Qin He was also looking at him. They smiled at each other as if they understood each other without speaking. Qin He knew that Yi Futian understood her. Friends were easy to make, but it was hard to find a person who truly understood her. However, at this moment, Qin He indeed felt someone truly understood her, and she enjoyed the feeling. Is there only the crown prince of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty? Xiantian goddess asked. Qin He selected her spiritual partner, which made the whole Heavenly Mandate realm tremble, and all the top forces had come for her. However, in the end, only the crown prince of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty stood out? Were others even afraid to have a try? No one had expected this situation. In the direction of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, someone walked forward and wanted to say something to Yi Futian, but Hua Qingyun waved his hand and stopped them. Just let it go. When Jiang Taichu saw the reaction of Yi Futian and Hua Qingyun, he didn't say anything and just watched it all quietly. So, Yi Tianyu was the only one who walked out. If only the crown prince of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty stands out, then there is no need to choose, Xiantian goddess said. Her gaze fell in the direction of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Yi Futian of Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven really did not want to compete? Didn't they care if Brahma's pure sky joined hands with the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty? After her words, the space fell silent. Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven still kept silent. Qin He, the Xiantian goddess said indifferently, looking at Qin He. At this moment, the atmosphere in this space was a bit depressing. People of the Violet Heavenly Palace looked indifferent, but they were smiling inwardly. Nobody expected that the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven gave up on their own. They did not understand why Yi Futian did this. What he was doing was handing Qin He over to Yi Tianyu. Warriors of demon clans were also watching this quietly. Even though the human cultivation world had grown stronger, the demon clans would not be affected. Unless some unusual figure showed up, it was none of their business whether Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven would be destroyed or not. Some demon clans were even glad to see it happen. Therefore, they didn't care about this result. Even the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven didn't keep it in mind, so why should they care? Yi Futian still had no response. It was as if he and the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven came just to watch the show. At this time, Qin He looked at Yi Tianyu and said, smiling, I am honored by your Highness's admiration. I have also heard about your Highness for a long time. Previously, in the battles of Violet Heavenly Palace and Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, you have shown marvelous performance. Today, I have the chance, so I personally want to spar with your Highness and learn about your cultivation. I wonder if your Highness can fulfill my wish? Was this Qin He's last test for Yi Tianyu? If Yi Tianyu was defeated, perhaps he would not be qualified to marry Qin He. However, although Qin He had strong combat strength, she still might not be able to defeat Yi Tianyu. Since you have shown interest, of course, I am willing to practice with you until you are satisfied, Yi Tianyu said with a smile. Qin He stepped forward and walked alone toward the bottom of the Xiantian Hall stairs, then jumped down to the empty ground below. Yi Tianyu's body flickered, and he also landed there in a chivalrous manner. Everyone came to the stairs and looked down at them. Qin He and Yi Tianyu were standing opposite each other with extraordinary grace. Yi Tianyu, the crown prince of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, was one of the most dazzling figures of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty today. Qin He was the first goddess of Brahma's pure sky. "Please enlighten me, Your Highness." Qin He bowed to salute and said, "Goddess first," Yi Tianyu said. He was personable and let Qin He go first. Qin He didn't decline. She waved her hands, and suddenly, the clouds and wind over the sky changed their color, and the wills of the great path converged. Behind Qin He, a sacred goddess showed up. This statue of goddess also appeared in the previous Xiantian matrix with 3 heads and 6 arms, as high as 100 feet. Countless beams of divine light shrouded Qin He's body, making Qin He look more divine. Many people showed surprise. Qin He used such powerful force at the beginning, but what was her intention? When Qin He was drawing palm print, the goddess also did the same. The great Brahma heavenly voice appeared between the sky and the earth, resounding through the void sky. The great path was booming, and the wind and clouds roared above the sky dome. Numerous divine swords emerged, and as the goddess' finger pointed down, numerous swords burst into the air and thrust toward Yi Tianyu. What does she mean? Warriors of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and Shangxiao Divine Palace frowned. Qin He's way of attacking was not like practicing at all. An idea occurred to many people. Maybe Qin He was unwilling to marry Yi Tianyu. Maybe she wanted to defeat Yi Tianyu. Yi Tianyu stood there, and the moment when he saw Qin He's attack, he understood something. There were not many changes in his eyes, but an outrageous spirit broke out from his body. A dazzling picture of heavenly mandate appeared behind him, making his body bathe in divine light. Both of them suddenly released extremely powerful forces. They were nothing like a couple who were about to marry. Yi Tianyu drew palm prints, and above the sky dome, there seemed to be a deity descending. A horrifying godlike figure appeared behind Yi Tianyu, holding up his hands. Countless palm prints blasted out toward the sky and collided with the approaching divine sword of cleansing. For a moment, the void sky oscillated, and the devastating air flows swept across the void air. What's going on? Countless people below Xiantian Pavilion looked up at the sky above and asked. There seemed to be life forces of horrifying great path fluctuating violently as if a fierce battle was breaking out. Besides, they could vaguely see 2 peerless figures in the upper sky, a goddess and a deity. Who were they fighting? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Many people below Xiantian Pavilion were a little surprised that a fight had broken out in Xiantian Pavilion yesterday. Many people below Xiantian Pavilion were a little surprised that a fight had broken out in Xiantian Pavilion yesterday. Today should be the day for Qin He to choose a spiritual partner. Why was there another battle? What was even more shocking was that the goddess figure was used in a technique of Brahma's pure sky, and the deity-like figure was a part of the ultimate skill of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. The one who is standing on top of the saint path is Qin He goddess, someone said. The other one is Yi Tianyu, someone also said. Qin He and Yi Tianyu were fighting. Many people were trembling inside. Were Qin He and Yi Tianyu fighting? Could it be her last test for Yi Tianyu? People looked up at the sky above Xiantian Pavilion and saw the horrifying airflow gradually rising. 2 peerless figures showed up above the sky of Xiantian Pavilion. People could be able to see them fighting, and just as they had guessed, these 2 figures were Qin He and Yi Tianyu. Are they mad? Many people thought to themselves, hearts beating hard when watching the situation on the battlefield. The divine sword of world cleansing and the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty descended. Both of them collided with each other using the ultimate skills. This was no longer a simple practice, but a real battle. I remember the last time when all forces broke into the Xiantian matrix, it also happened. People said to one another, but their eyes were fixed on the battlefield in the void sky. The divine light was shining, and the glory of the great path fell from the sky. Their battle became more and more violent, and people had noticed that Yi Tianyu was getting more serious, like a true god. His every attack was shocking. Even though Qin He was powerful too, she was quelled. In the end, the divine light of all skies shone down and descended over Qin He's body. Qin He was hit and flew away, and her delicate body seemed to be penetrated by the divine light. Blood oozed out from her bright red lips. Why did he hit her so hard? Many people thought and twitched inside. They did not forget what the heavenly mandate dynasty crown prince came here for. He came here to seek marriage with Qin He. But at this moment he wounded Qin He. People all thought this battle was way too fierce and would hurt the relationship, unless something had happened above. But they didn't know. At this time, above Futian Pavilion, warriors who were watching the battle also looked solemn and looked up at the battlefield above the sky. Both of them looked radiant all over their bodies. Tianyu was bathed in the divine light, and the power of the great path poured into his body frantically. It was as if he had become the true deity. Qin He's temperament was like an immortal goddess, but at this moment, she was injured. There was no change in her eyes, and she was still staring in the direction of Tianyu. Tianyu also looked at her with a pair of golden eyes full of penetrating power. He just meant to practice, but Qin He attacked him mercilessly and fought with all her strength, so he had to take it seriously. From Qin He's fighting attitude, he naturally understood something. At this time, although Tianyu still looked calm, he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Since Qin He requested to fight, then he had to do it. Is that enough? Tianyu asked Qin He. Qin He stepped forward and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. She still had a smile on her face, and her clothes fluttered as she said, "Your Highness is indeed a peerless figure, but Qin He can still fight with you." After the words, the glory of divine light fell, and more goddess phantoms appeared in the surrounding world. Suddenly, the goddesses waved her arms at the same time, and the vast world was all shrouded within it. A touch of coldness flashed in his eyes after Tianyu saw the scene, and he said, "Since goddess wants to fight, I should accompany you." The divine armor over his body moved with the wind. Tianyu raised his finger and pressed it toward the void sky. Instantly, the sky and the earth roared, and the killing light transformed from the Qianqiu brush engulfed the void sky as his original body was moving forward in this devastative airflow. He only took one step and came in front of Qin He, and slapped his godlike palm print forward. The great path was roaring, and the void sky was trembling. Tianyu's palm blasted out tens of thousands of divine light beams, and Qin He's body was wrapped in the goddess figure. The goddess held the sword and collided with the deity's palm print, and the rumbling sound was like the collapse of the great path. All the arms exploded and shattered until the divine light also penetrated Qin He's body. This time, it was more violent than the previous blow. Qin He flew back. Her body was slightly bent, and her face turned pale. It took her a long while to stop. The battle ceased. There was no sound over the Xintian pavilion except for the sound of the roaring of the great path airflow. People all looked at Qin He. At this moment, they also understood. First goddess of Brahma's pure sky seemed to be expressing her attitude in this way, and she was by no means willing to marry him. Qin He, Xintian goddess glanced up at Qin He and said coldly, "Enough." Qin He slightly raised her head, and a bright smile appeared on her pale face, but this smile made people feel a touch of sadness. There seemed to be a bit of loneliness hidden in that beautiful face. "Qin He can fight again, master," Qin He said. Her calm tone seemed to hide her determination. In a quiet space, only Qin He's voice echoed between the sky and the earth. Tianyu's look turned cold, and he felt a little angry. He had said that although he was willing to arrange a marriage with Brahma's pure sky, he didn't care too much about it. Even if it didn't work, it wouldn't matter much to him. If he really was looking for a spiritual partner, there were so many excellent women in the world for him to choose. Even if he couldn't find any in the heavenly mandate realm, he could go to other realms. However, for his clan, he did not mind having this marriage. But now, even though Brahma's pure sky had invited them to come, no one competed with him, and Qin He was defeated. Why did she put him in such a situation? How could they do that to the heavenly mandate dynasty? Should they fight again? The divine light over Tianyu's body became even more dazzling. Many people looked up at him and trembled inwardly. They knew that Yi Tianyu was obviously angry. Bang! Yi Tianyu stepped into the void sky, raised his hand, and drew a palm print. With the blooming of the divine light, the palm print of the great path banged directly over Qin He's body. This time, Qin He flew out feebly and hit a palace in the distance, and then fell towards the sky. This scene made everyone's heart beat fast. Yi Tianyu was attacking violently. As the crown prince of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, he also had his own pride. If it had not been for the revival of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, how could he treat a woman like that? But now, Qin He still had not given him the respect he deserved. Now she still wanted to fight, so he would accompany her. It's time for Goddess to make a decision. Yi Tianyu stood above the void sky and said to Qin He, looking a little bit aggressive. At this time, Qin He's life force was weak. She got up from the ground, but her body was not stable. She looked up and smiled elegantly and sadly. I can still fight, Qin He said in a feeble voice. Apparently, she could no longer fight. But even at this moment, she still refused to compromise. She did not express her thoughts clearly, but her actions made everyone understand. She was unwilling to marry Yi Tianyu, and what she was doing was a silent protest. Qin He looked at Yi Tianyu and looked toward the direction of Brahma's pure sky. Her beautiful and sad smile seemed to contain her memories. Since she started cultivation, Brahma's pure sky was her home, and everything of hers was given to her by Brahma's pure sky. The title of first goddess of Brahma's pure sky gave her a lot of praise about her appearance and her spiritual achievements, and they also came from Brahma's pure sky. She could not refute or directly resist orders from her master, so she could only make a silent protest. This was not the way she wanted. Instead of accepting all this, she'd rather return everything to Brahma's pure sky, so she would not owe Brahma's pure sky anymore. Warriors of Brahma's pure sky were also somehow moved. Many people looked at Xiantian goddess. Xiantian goddess still sat there and took a look at Qin He, and then took a look at Yi Futian. Qin He went to the palace where Yi Futian stayed yesterday. What did they talk about? Goddess Qin, are you sure you can fight again? Yi Tianyu stood in the void, looking down at Qin He. Qin He looked up at Yi Tianyu, who was still bathed in divine light. She said, of course. Okay. Yi Tianyu didn't say much. Brahma's pure sky didn't say anything, but Qin He still wanted to fight, so what could he do? It seemed that he had to continue. Yi Tianyu was bathed in divine light, wearing the divine armor. The dazzling light made many people feel scared. Yi Tianyu raised his hand and thrust it toward Qin He. It seemed as if the strike was enough to destroy Qin He. Many people's hearts thumped fast. Yi Tianyu's movement was also very slow. It was as if he was waiting for something. However, Brahma's pure sky still did not say anything, and Qin He did not compromise. With his arms slowly lowering, his body also went down and headed straight toward where Qin He was. The gorgeous divine light engulfed Qin He's body, making it almost impossible to see her figure. All warriors held their breath. No one had expected that things would end like this today. The things today were beyond everyone's expectations. Finally, the gorgeous light came. Boom! After a loud noise, the void sky trembled violently, and people's hearts thumped hard with it. Countless eyes stared at the front. The fairy-like figure was still standing there, not withering. In the sky above her body, a silver-haired figure showed up. His hair was white, and his clothes were white, and he was handsome and unparalleled. The sound of elephant roaring came out, and the horrifying aura of elephant shone between the sky and the earth, containing an appalling might. Yi Futian. Did he finally come out? Many pairs of eyes were fixed on him. Just now, at the crucial moment, Yi Futian came across the space and came in front of Qin He, blocking Yi Tianyu's blow. Yi Tianyu lowered his head, and his eyes fell on Yi Futian's body. The wills of the great path growled, and his expression was extremely cold. He said, I don't remember you coming out at the beginning. Since Yi Futian didn't come out at the beginning, he had given up the opportunity to fight. But he stood up at this moment. What did he mean? Xiantian goddess was also looking at Yi Futian. Until this moment, She still didn't mean to intervene even though many disciples of Brahma's pure sky had shown their worry. Today, two supreme powers of the heavenly mandate realm have jointly persecuted a young cultivator. I feel pity for you. Yi Futian avoided directly responding to Yi Tianyu's words and said this ironically. His eyes looked a bit cold. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.